Greetings, Scudder, and welcome to the Atlas dissection video. Today we're going to be doing the roustabout tug Atlas, because it's got a few pieces that the other ones don't have. As always, we're going to be starting off by doing the externals, the lights, and on this one, the push pads that the roustabout tug has. These are unique parts, so you'll only ever see them on the ship. Now, we're zooming through this because it is quite simple. The only thing we need to do is cut the cut points on the push pads, and everything else goes in pretty simple. Now, what I want to talk about while I'm doing not much of anything is the Quasar engines that the Atlas is known for, as they can be quite dangerous, and especially if you do them incorrectly, they are a crash hazard. Now, as you can see with this ship, we managed to get an unpressurized one, so we're not going to have to worry about that. But I am going to show the first way that I do the engines, as there are two ways to do it safely, and any other way can cause some serious problems. Now, you want to cut the cut points along here, and you want to get the thruster nozzles directly into the barge. And the next part is what is probably scariest for newcomers. But what we do here is we tether the thruster to the backboard there, and we cut these points. Now, once you've cut all four, the tether will pull the thruster out, and you will have to move quickly. However, when I say move quickly, what I mean is move smoothly. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Now, you want to press the Z button to hold onto the wall like you can see I'm doing there, and then activate the switch. This will mean that you are stuck to the wall, and any potential movement won't affect you. Now I'm going to show it again because it is really important to do this correctly. Once again, we tether the thruster, we move through smoothly, we hold onto the wall, and we release the fuel injector. This will stop the pipes burning and release the nanocarbon panels. Now make sure to remove your tethers before retethering anything new, so you save the lifetime of your tethers. We're going to cut the cut points holding these last two panels on, we're going to move them in, and then we're going to move on, showing the other method for the engines after we have cleared out some of the ship. Now with the fuel injectors, we want to make sure to be very careful about how we access that cut point. You can do it safely, however it is still dangerous. Alright, with that last fuel injector in, we're going to move these panels in, tethering them, and then we're going to enter the ship. Once we've entered the ship, we're going to remove the panels that are holding everything in, but we're also going to see here that we have these fuel tanks connected to the walls here. With these, the yellow lights on the pipes denotes that there are fuel going through them, so they are currently fire hazards until you remove the fuel tanks. Now for the rest of it, we're going to go through and cut off the nanocarbon panels, doing so with the line cutter like I explained in the mackerel video. Remember, it cuts what it shows you it's going to cut, and nothing else. Now the Atlas is very similar to the mackerel, except slightly bigger and weirdly shaped. So most of the techniques that you can use in the mackerel you can use here, except of course on the engines. The other big difference is the cockpit glass here is actually got cut points, which allows you to cut it off much easier and just throw it straight in the furnace. Of course, we're going to clear out as much of this as possible, get the nanocarbon panels out of the way. I want to put the ship into a state of mostly cleared before we move on to the next set of thrusters, because the danger comes from when the thrusters have some mass on them, but not enough mass of the ship to hold them together. So now we're going to do it. I have removed most of it. And the technique I use here is that you find this nanocarbon plate, the injector base plate, and you can actually put a demo charge right on the edge of it, and you can get 2 for 1, and it cuts off that main plate at the front. Now what this will do is actually put the injector and the injector base plate on very, very small mass, which means you end up less likely to crush yourself. Of course, we're going to move the thruster caps out, tether the thruster to the back, and cut the cut points, again holding the wall and releasing the injector. And this will actually generate a lot of movement in the engine. It is still, in my opinion, better to do it at the beginning. However, this makes it a lot safer if you don't end up doing that. As you can see, we've done that again. And you can see here, I've gotten the crush warning. Now, that generally is a problem in those engines. They will end up crushing you. However, if that comes up, just find the nearest wall and hold on to it with the Z or X button. We're going to remove the injector base plates and put the fuel injectors straight in the barge. Now, we are zipping through a lot of this because it is very similar to the mackerel. However, if you have any questions, please do feel free to leave them below. I will be more than happy to answer them. Now, as you can see, we've gotten most of the nanocarbon panels out of the way, so we're going to go through and start doing the internals and the barge stuff on the inside. Of course, collecting the teddy bears, and we're going to be daisy chaining all of these pieces together. I do quite enjoy the daisy chain. It is by far the best technique that I have ever used. However, as you can see, there are some problems with it if you accidentally tether your stuff to the ship. This section of clearing out all the insides takes a long time, relatively speaking, but is probably the most soothing to me. Now, another thing the Atlas has is these little panels on the so-called basement. These obviously have cut points. Now, you don't need to worry about the wires. The wire's not actually attached to those little panels, so you can just cut the cut points and throw them out. Now, obviously, I still have the reactor to do. As it's a class 1 reactor, we just grip it, rip it, and throw it. Making sure to keep a clear path. Now, as you can see, I'm going to be daisy chaining these parts. I originally thought they were the single ones doubled up, but they were not. So I accidentally wasted a couple tethers there. However, I learned from it and moved on. And we're going to be clearing all of this out. Now, with light objects, when you daisy chain them, it's always a good idea to attach them to something heavy. I'm going to show shortly exactly why that's a problem. However, moving through this is all relatively simple. Make sure your line cutter only touches what you want it to cut. Now, I really like using the scanner, but I understand that some people like to do it the old-fashioned way with their eyes. That is, of course, more than okay. However, when I'm playing just by myself, I will often flick between the two just to see what's beyond the walls or going on in the ship. Now, of course, we're going to be trying to get all the little parts that we can. However, we will always be doing cleanup at the end, so don't worry too much about it at this point. Just try and get everything that's attached. Now, as I'm going to show here, sometimes daisy chaining light objects together doesn't really work because your very light object that you throw ends up at the mercy of the forces from the other ones. and the forces from the tethers will override the weight of the object itself. Now it looks like we're getting very close to being done here. So we're going to throw the frame into the furnace and get that thruster I accidentally left on the wall there. And it looks like we've got a bottle over here that we've not thrown in the furnace. We're just going to collect that. Make sure we do our cleanup. Now these parts you would normally collect in the story, but we're not in story, we're in free play, so we can't do that. I'm spinning around looking for any extra parts and trying to speed up this process because it is taking far too long for me. Now, of course, we're going to watch as we feed the furnace god. If you don't know about the furnace god, just make a very personal sacrifice and you'll understand. Now, while we're watching this, I'd like it if people could leave comments below and telling me what specific parts of tools or any of the hazard levels that have caused them problems. I will try and make some videos addressing them. But with the last bit of the aluminium melting away, we're going to go straight back to the hab and end our shift. So that ship was worth 18,176,000. And so that's the end of this video. The next video will be a Javelin dissection video. Stay tuned. Signing out.